walk through fire with shadows on my heels. Scars turn to stories that taught me to feel. Lost in the silence, found in the flame. Now wear my battle cry without shame. This isn't the end, it's where I begin. A soul that remembers the fire within.
Welcome back to another episode of A Warrior Spirit, brought to you by Praxis 33. I'm your host, Daryl Snow. Let's dive in. Life throws us curveballs and hardships. How well do you handle those? Today, we're speaking with Blair Riggs, and Blair's curveball happens to be cerebral palsy. And through her podcast, The Adaptable Octopus, she shares personal stories about living with cerebral palsy and how she's developed resilience and adaptability in the face of those challenges. Blair, welcome to A Warrior Spirit.
Thank you for having me.
I appreciate it. You recently just started your podcast, but obviously you've dealt with cerebral palsy your entire life. Where did you grow up?
I grew up in Rustburg, Virginia.
So small town?
Very small town.
And
Yes.
and what was it like, growing up with this? When did you notice that you were kind of, not like every other child you were around?
I didn't notice it until I got a lot older, because I grew up in a small town. The kids that I started second grade with was the kids I graduated high school from. So it was just normal to everybody. It wasn't until I got older, high school years, where you start dating, where you're more active, that I realized like I couldn't skate with my friends. Um I couldn't do some of the activities they were doing. Then I realized, you know,
Things were a
I
little
was a
different.
little bit different.
When people grow up with a difference, I don't want to say a disability because it's not a disability unless we make it a disability. But when people grow up
Mhm.
different, parents seem to go one of two ways. They either really coddle the child and protect the child, or they treat the child like, and I'm going to put air quotes, normal, and they just
Mhm.
grow up doing the same things, other children are doing. Which way did your parents go?
My mom treated me normal. I was expected to do everything that my siblings did. They're a total. I have two brothers and two sisters, and I'm right in the middle. So I was expected to do everything that my siblings did. I gathered wood for the fireplace. I helped take care of the farm animals. There was no difference.
I think that's a beautiful way to handle children, because children are often cruel enough, and if you're treated differently, then that amplifies the difference, and then they treat you worse anyway. So you were very fortunate to not have that going on. When did you start dating? Like you mentioned right around high school.
Um, I wasn't allowed to date until I'm 17 years old. But like my mom would allow people to come to my house, but I wasn't allowed to like leave the house. And when I did, I had to take a younger sibling with me.
Chaperone.
Yes.
A chaperone. That's
So,
funny. You mentioned that I've listened. You have your podcast, the Adaptable
mhm.
Octopus. First off, why that name?
Because I just honestly, I was watching a documentary on the I forgot where I was watching it, but just how octopuses have to like move through the ocean. Like they're so, in my opinion, they're so underrated. They're not really talked about until here recently, and they have to adapt. They shift shape the, these shapes shift, and they just have to form to the lifestyle around them or their environment. And their environment doesn't change for them, they change to the environment. And that just resonated with my life.
I think
So
that's awesome. You adapt to your environment because your environment's not going to adapt to you. I think we all could
yes.
learn how to, live better if we did that, because many of us want to, have everything external around us change, but we want to stay the same, as opposed to,
Mm-hmm.
okay, we can't change those outside forces, so perhaps I had better change to adapt to it. I think that's a great philosophy. That's pretty
Yes.
amazing. When you graduated high school, I
Mm-hmm.
heard on your podcast, you struggle with making decisions. Can you
I
expand on that a little bit?
yes. I was well, let me back up. I wasn't given the freedom to make choices, and now that I am an adult, I am divorced. I still struggle with in my in my own self, my own ability to make decisions. It wasn't until my 40s that I accepted I had cerebral palsy and really looked into it and what it was. It was
So,
not even with. Go ahead.
no, no, I don't mean to interrupt you. I apologize. Go ahead.
Even with my children growing up, we just never discussed it. It was just something. And now um, that I have accepted and not, I'm accepted and I'm learning and I'm okay with myself. For the first time ever, I'm okay with me and I love who I am.
As well, you should.
So,
Absolutely. You said a couple interesting things there. First off, that you were in your 40s before you even accepted that you had cerebral palsy. And secondly, you were
mhm,
married, divorced with children. So let's
yes.
back up. Let's back up just a little bit. um, First off, how does someone go 40 years without really accepting the affliction of cerebral palsy? Like, you just ignored it or just made it part of your life?
No, like I said, growing up, I was treated like my other siblings, and there was no different. And growing up in a small community, I was normal. You know what I'm saying? Like they grew up with me, so and it wasn't until actually I got divorced because I got married right after high school. I was 19, and I married the very I'm gonna say a take charge man, so I didn't have to make any decisions. I just did what I was asked to do. It wasn't until I was divorced that I had to make my own decisions. And I didn't get divorced until my mid 30s.
How much older was your husband?
Just 6 months. He
Oh,
wasn't that
same
much
age.
older, but
Okay.
um, yeah,
Usually, when you say take charge man, you're thinking someone who's like several years older, not another 19-year-old who's just out there, you know,
yeah.
dominating. So that's interesting. And then when did you start having children? How far into your marriage?
I was I was 4 years into my marriage. I had my son 2 days before my fifth wedding anniversary. And it's funny me and my ex-husband were talking about marriage. I told him I didn't want any kids. Like I made sure it was okay. And it was after we bought a home, after we got settled. I really thought about having children, what it would take, what I wanted that to look at. Um, so I just looked at it like a mission. I look at everything like a mission, and now I have one grown son and then a teenager that is doing wonderful.
That's awesome.
So
You said you're divorced. How long were you
mm,
married before you divorced?
we were married 17 years.
That's a good long time. May I
Mhm.
inquire as to what caused the divorce?
When I got married, my husband was in the military, so there was no like there was a lot of separation. And then when he got out of the army, he was a truck driver, and it wasn't until he came home because he wanted a second child. And I asked him if he wanted a second child, he would have to come up off the road. And so we did, and we had our daughter, and our daughter has some challenges. And we had me and my husband really never did life together. We never lived together like full time. So we were navigating that, and we were navigating a child that needed extra support.
So it's interesting. You said that you didn't start making your own decisions until you were 40s, in your 40s, yet
Mm-hmm.
you spent an entire marriage where you weren't actually with your husband on a regular basis. So
Mm-hmm.
weren't you making decisions during that time? How was life being
Not.
handled during that time?
I don't want to. I don't want to. Like, for example, I had to make the grocery list and I had to plan the meal. So Monday night, I knew what to cook, and everything was very scheduled and very, like I had a to do list and I just knew I had to do it, if that makes sense.
Yeah. You were given a directive and you followed it.
Yeah. Yes.
So, what is life like making your decisions versus when you were just following orders?
Oh, it's beautiful. It's freedom. It's joy. It's love. It's scary. It's fearful. It's all the above. But it's so like I'm so proud of myself that I am now the happiest in my entire life that I've ever been. This is the happiest, and I'm so thankful. I'm so thankful. And I would live my journey all over again to end up at this place.
And how are you helping others that need to hear your message and to need to hear your story? How are you helping them find themselves and be adaptable to their surroundings so that they can find that same joy?
First of all, my therapist suggested that I get into support groups on Facebook. So that's what I did first. And then I just started talking to other people with cerebral palsy, and it just apocalypse just happened. I can't explain it, but the adaptable octopus was born, and then from there, I have started doing getting my peer recovery license, and I am working at a home for women. So I get to share in their journey and help them along, set goals, move forward in the community. And honestly, I think it helps me more than it helps them. But
Sometimes when we're
so
helping
that's the
others,
path
we do
I'm
help
on.
ourselves. Yeah. We become better by helping others become better. And I think that's a
Mhm.
beautiful thing. I'm curious, how was your life? different when you didn't realize or focus or understand that you had cerebral palsy versus after you realize that you have this that makes you different? How is your life
Well,
different?
it's just I'm not so much. I do suffer from anxiety, but not as much. And there's a peace, and there's a like I trust myself, but I prayer, and just letting go of everything that I thought was going to happen. Just a surrender.
You become more comfortable in who you actually are as opposed to
Yes,
fighting who you were.
yes.
So
Like
go
I
ahead.
think
Uh,
I think your body knows, or your heart knows when you're living on purpose. And I knew I was called for something bigger, and I was bigger than what I was shrinking myself to. And once I unraveled myself, or allowed the unraveling to happen, it was, life became a joy to live.
Thank you for watching Prospera TV Network. We hope you're enjoying the show. We'll be right back after this commercial break.
And once I unraveled myself, or allowed the unraveling to happen, it was, life became a joy to live.
and what is it that you feel that your purpose is now?
Simply to share my story. There's no every road that you go on, every bad whatever, or every hard moment, God uses that, or can use that for good. He says that he makes beautiful ashes. So I'm allowing the anger to go away from me, so I can let God use the hurt and the pain and the struggle. And you know,
That's a beautiful way to heal is when we release that anger. I know I lived an angry life for 58 years and I didn't find any joy or peace in anything until I let go of that anger and surrendered to
mhm.
what God's purpose is for my life. So I can totally understand where that is. When you started to study cerebral palsy, for those who aren't familiar with the affliction, can you describe what it is and what it entails?
Well, there's so many. I think there's 5 different types of cerebral palsy, so I'm not familiar with all the kinds. I'm only familiar with mine, and I have hemiplegia cerebral palsy, which means one side of my body is weaker than the other, and I don't know what side of the brain it affects, but it affects what it does. It affects your motor skills, and um, it's not a brain thing. It's like more of a muscle thing than a brain, which is frustrating because I have a physical disability, but not a mental disability, and some people get that confused. And that I've talked to several other people with cerebral palsy, and that's their biggest message. We are just like you. We think just like you. We just can't physically do some of the things you cannot do.
It almost sounds similar to stroke victims. I have a
Yes.
family member and a friend who both have had strokes, and they are fully in their brain. They just can't formulate it in
Mm.
their words or some of their actions. So it sounds like a
Yes.
similar type of um, muscular affliction, and that has to be a little bit frustrating to be fully mentally in there and not have your body cooperate with what your brain wants to do with it.
Yes, it's difficult. I know for me, like I have to even be careful of what kind of toothpaste I buy because it has to be a pop-up toothpaste instead of a screw on top. If
Hmm.
that makes sense. Like they're so, and I don't realize that I do it because I just do it. But when I visit other people's houses, when I'm out in public, I realize, hey, you know, but for me in my house, it's just normal. It's not until I'm out in the world that I have trouble. If that makes sense.
Absolutely. When you say that your purpose is to share your story, what part of your journey are you hoping to share the most? What is it that you want to be heard from Blair Riggs?
That there's hope, there's healing. You just gotta, for me, my journey, it's prayer, it's letting go, it's knowing that you're not in control. Like, and if you try to figure it out on your own, it's it's way harder. I'm a big fan of support groups and just getting with your community. Like connection. Don't isolate. You're not alone.
As you've been out helping others and you've been out in some of these groups, do you find a common thread, whether it be anger, resilience? Some of these groups, I'm not saying your group, but some of these groups, because my wife is in a couple support groups for her chronic illness, but I see some of these support groups turn into kind of bitch sessions, which really don't help. I mean, it's good to vent,
Hmm.
but if all the group is in there bitching and no one's supporting to get out of your own way, it doesn't seem to help as much. Do you find your groups or the people you talk to more willing to discuss the positivity and moving forward, or do you find a lot of them are just still angry and complaining?
With my group and my friends, I'm gonna call them friends. They just I find they just want to be heard. You know, one or just somebody to say I understand you, and it's not angry. It's like they're trying to do it by themselves, and once they realize they have a helping hand, then they begin to soften.
And
Not
those of us,
everybody's like that, but the majority of my
that's good because then it
friends
actually
are.
becomes a helpful community to support and uplift others, as opposed to the negativity, which still just keeps you spinning in your issue. If you
Mhm.
were to talk to not someone with the affliction who's trying to adapt and become resilient, but to those without the affliction who don't understand it, what would be your message to them, and how would it be different to the person with the affliction?
Um, so if I'm talking to a non, I don't want to say with a person that doesn't necessarily know how to deal with other people, or I would say that you just gotta listen. You gotta listen to understand and not listen to hear. And there's a big difference. And the compassion and you know, just listen. That would be my only advice. Just listen.
And for those that have the affliction, what would your message be to them?
Just be adaptable because you are resilient. You are here for a purpose. You just have to be adaptable. So that would be my message, and is my message.
I appreciate that so much. I think for those of us who encounter people who are different, and I don't really care what the difference is, whether it be, someone with cerebral palsy, someone who's not believing what we believe, someone who's got, a wheelchair, someone who's got whatever that is different from us. I think it's important for us to, like you said, really listen to understand, and because how you treat them should not be any different than how they want to be treated. Some people
Mhm.
want to be treated slightly different because they have differences, and some want to just be treated any other way. And if you go in there and try to, oh, they're different than me, I have to do X, Y, or Z, you create
Mhm.
conflict and problems that don't need to be there had you just spoken to them and talked to them and treated them like you would any other person who's the same as you.
Yeah. And I want to share with you an incident I had. I went to a local jewelry store to buy my niece a college graduation gift. And my sister was with me, and my sister doesn't have any disability. And the saleswoman was only talking to my sister and not me. And I had already been there, and I had already picked out the jewelry that I wanted my sister to view. I tried to tell her, but when it's okay to walk away, I walked away from the situation and found another person to help me. And so don't get angry. Everybody doesn't have the same heart or the same intentions. So it's okay to walk away from people to find the right people. And the right people are always out there. You just have to find them.
Yeah, and I think,
So,
especially with cerebral palsy, it is a misunderstood disability for those who don't have it, because, well, first off, you said there's 5 different types, so that in and of
mhm,
itself, it's not like your leg isn't working and it's only one type of your leg not working. It's 5 different types of this affliction. So that in
mhm,
and of itself makes it hard to understand. But I think the biggest component that you stated about it, it's not a mental disorder. It's a physical limitation. And if people who
mhm,
are encountering people with cerebral palsy understand that it's not a mental disorder, then those salespeople that you encountered at the jewelry store don't treat you that way, because you can fully understand, you can fully make your decision, you can fully comprehend. You just physically can't get your money out of the purse like your sister. Like it's,
yes.
you know,
It's like no matter that is so very true. No matter what wallet I buy, I always struggle pulling the cards out. Like no matter what wallet I buy. So that is very true.
yeah, and I think if people started treating others with it being a physical limitation instead of a mental limitation, they would treat you differently. Which is why it was important that your family, your parents, and your siblings never treated you differently, because it was a physical limitation, not a mental limitation.
Hmm.
What do you want life to look like now that you are out there giving your message, you're out there doing your podcast, you're out there helping others? What do you want your next 40 years to look like versus your first 40?
I want I want my story to be a story of redemption. I want my story to, no matter what stage of life I go through, I want my story to bring hope. I want to tell everybody there is, you can't change anybody but yourself. And once you change, once you adapt to your circumstances, or when I say adapt, it's okay to move. I'm not saying that you have to stay in the same location. But it's okay to say, hey, I don't need this anymore, or I need this in my life. It's okay to stand up for what you need.
And what part of your story is key to your adaptability? What do you find is your biggest moment that you overcame and that you are really living that resilience and adaptability?
Um, peace, peace, and prayer. But the moment it changed for me was last summer. Last summer, it was just because I had been in the groups, I had been in the therapies and the groups, and like last year, I can't explain it. I can't say this moment, but it was over. It was subtle.
Do you kind of know in that subtleness what you were actually transitioning from? Like what were you overcoming?
I was always like, well, I was angry. I was angry, like, why did this person do this? Or why did I have to go through this? Or why? I just struggled with whys. And
Mhm.
once I got rid of asking why and just being, okay, God, what do you want me to do next? Like, I'm over questioning it. I can't change it. But I know I'm not meant to be in this place anymore.
And is
So.
that about the same time that you started your podcast? Where did you find this artwork, and what prompted you to
The
start it?
my well, the green I came up with the green octopus idea because green represents cerebral palsy, and my little brother actually just kind of created the image. The image I found, but he just brought it to life. So it was a collaboration of just my family, my little brother, and I.
I think it's a great piece of illustration, and it's a great piece of imagery that really evokes, change and resilience. You got the variation of the colors, the multiple tentacles, and even the soulfulness in the eyes of the octopus are like
Hmm.
really evoking if you actually take time to look at it. Where is your podcast located? What's
My
it?
podcast is on Spotify. You can find it on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube.
Excellent. And do you do it solo, or do you bring on guests? How do you do your podcast?
I I sometimes you get guests, sometimes you just get me. I bring on people that has made a difference in my world, or that has similar stories, just for encouragement. And we talk about real stuff. I talk about my struggles as finding my own voice, and I talk about my struggles growing up. And it's just, my purpose is to tell people they're not alone. And so, however that looks, that's how we do it. And so I'm open.
You're doing it the Blair way, and I love that. If you look back in
Yes.
your life, if you look back from your childhood, your teen years, your married years, what are you most proud of, other than finding peace?
that I have never given up. In the 2018, I believe, I was being fitted for a wheelchair. Um, I don't know if you know, but the neurologist gives you a test of how you, like, if you can feel your feet, if you can walk. I can't really explain the test, but there's a test, and I always fail that test. But I have the spirit in me, the warrior spirit in me that just keeps going. Like, I just have something in my mind, and even if I don't do it the way others do it, the job still gets done. And what I'm most proud about that, I can pass that on to my children. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how it gets done, just as long as you can do it with a good heart and it gets done.
Did you avoid
So
going into a wheelchair?
I did. I was like, this is not for me. I'm not. I've got too much stuff to do. And it's only been a couple weeks where I went to a new neurologist, um, and she didn't understand my test. Like, I was still failing every test, but I was walking and I was doing everything. And I just said, Jesus, I can't, like, I can't tell you anything. I just, um, and I work out. I physically make myself go to the gym. For anybody that knows me knows that I don't like the gym, but it's something I have to do.
I love
So,
that you just push through no matter what. Do you drive or
yeah.
not?
I do have my license, and I got my license uh, after my son was 1 years old, and I was 25 years old because I didn't want to. I didn't want my children to miss out on anything because of my disability. So I did get my license when my son was 1 years old. But back in 2021, I believe, I was in a accident where someone hit me, and it scared me so bad that I have not driven since. So that is one of my personal goals, and I'm saying this on, in front of a lot of people so I can be held accountable. One of my goals this summer is to get back behind the wheel.
And knowing that you are resilient and determined, you've said it
Mhm.
out there, you've said it for yourself, and I fully expect to see a photo of you driving down the road, you not taking the photo, but somebody
Okay.
taking the photo of,
Okay.
of you driving down the road because I have a feeling that that is going to happen sooner rather than later with that kind of
Yes.
determination. Absolutely.
Yes.
What does, I'm going to ask you, what does a warrior spirit mean to you? Because we talked off camera, and you had
Mhm.
asked to come on this show because it is a warrior spirit, and it's about overcoming. It's a, the last song of the last verse of my theme song says it's not about the fight, it's how we rise from it. And I truly believe,
Mhm.
Blair, that you embody that. So what does a warrior spirit really mean to Blair?
Accepting that you can do things even when it looks hard. Like, just having knowing what you want. First of all, you gotta know what you want, and no stopping at nothing short of the finish line. Even if it's like, when I talk about goals, it could be like big goals, but I'm talking about, there are some days where the only goal I have is to take a shower, and that's okay because I got my goal done. When people, I find that people put too much weight on themselves, and they gotta be grateful for the small steps. Yeah, I want the big house and the farm, but on the journey, there's small wins. So you gotta appreciate the small stuff, and the big things will come.
I think many people lose sight of that. I think they set goals so big and grand that they lose sight of the little steps create the journey to the big steps. And I mentioned my wife, with her illness. There were many years in the beginning where her only goal was to be able to wake up. Her Like,
Hmm.
she was so close to death that just waking up another day was her biggest goal. And some days, like you, her biggest goal is getting in the shower or,
Hmm.
doing something small around the house. And through those little goals, she's managed to achieve some of her bigger goals for herself. So I think that's really huge that people miss out on the small steps of their journey. And if they really turned around and looked at how far they came, they'd realize that those small steps brought them to some of their bigger accomplishments. I was talking to my
Hmm.
wife just yesterday. One of the things that she's most proud of is that she's still here, because in her
Hmm.
trials and her tribulations and her afflictions, wanting to not be here is a reoccurring thought sometimes that really has to be overcome and won. And she's very
Hmm.
proud of the fact that she's still here. She's still standing, she's still fighting. And somehow I get the sense that that is something you're really proud of too. That you're still here, you're
Yes.
still standing, and you're still fighting.
Yes. But I want to make a statement. It's okay to have a bad day. Like I have bad days where I'm like, I just can't do it, and I'm down and depressed, and that's okay. You're okay if you feel that. It doesn't mean you're defeated. It just means you need a break. I find grace is the most important thing. You need grace for other people, and you need grace for yourself.
I think grace for yourself is
And
even more important. Too many of us too many of us find it easy to forgive and give grace to others. They find it really difficult and
Mhm.
really hard to give grace for themselves. And I think if you want to truly live life, you have to find grace for yourself, because there are moments where you're not as strong as you were. I tell my wife, just give your 100% for that day. It doesn't have to be the same 100% that yesterday was. If it's
Mhm.
lower, it's still your 100% for that day. Just give your 100% for that
Mhm.
day and stop comparing it to tomorrow or yesterday. Whatever you can do today. Do you agree with that?
Yes. I 100% agree with that.
And I think that's where you
So
find
I
the
just,
grace, because you gave yourself
mhm,
the opportunity to just do your 100% today, right?
yes, yes. And everybody's journey doesn't look the same.
Everybody's journey never looks the
Can
same.
I, yeah, can I tell you a story?
Please.
Last year, my son graduated high school last year, and I woke up one day. I was doing graduation stuff, prom stuff, all the senior stuff, getting ready for the end of the year. And I woke up one day and I couldn't walk. I was home alone and I literally had to crawl to a phone and I couldn't walk. And I have cerebral vascular disease, which means the blood vessels in your brain shrink. And I went out and got life insurance because I was preparing for the ending, and I'm here and I'm starting a podcast. So just keep going. You don't, even though today is dark and you're preparing for death, tomorrow you might tomorrow is a new day, and now the only thing I think about is life, you know. And I'm not saying don't be naive for the stuff you need, the equipment you need, the help you need, but tomorrow changes everything. A moment can change everything.
I love that, and I appreciate
So,
that, and I'm glad that you took a moment out of your life and your day to share your story with us and to join us on our show. It's for people like you to show the resilience and the capabilities. That's why this show was created, and I'm just really honored that you took time to come and do this with me today.
well, thank you for having a podcast where somebody like me could reach out and say, "Hey, I got something to say." So thank you.
Oh, you're very, very welcome. Is there any last parting words you want to say before we sign off?
Enjoy your, it's okay. Enjoy your life, even if it's enjoy your life. Life doesn't have to be hard.
Life,
Enjoy it.
absolutely. Life is what we make it. Even in those hardships, it can
Yes.
be enjoyable. You have to look a little harder. So
Yes.
thank you so much. I appreciate that. And if you'd like to get in touch with Blair, you can connect with her on our social media platforms, on her Facebook and on her YouTube channel. And be sure to tune into her Adaptable Octopus on YouTube. It's a wonderful show of real life and real life's journeys. So, as always, we thank you for joining us on this edition of A Warrior Spirit. Be sure to hit that like or subscribe button so that you can find all of our shows. We're not only on YouTube, but also on Roku, as well as Apple Podcasts and um, Spotify. So please remember, it's not about the fight, it's how you rise from it.
It's not just about the fight, it's how we rise from it. This is your Prospera era, where dreams align with grace, abundance flows like rivers. You've stepped into your place. Rise, reign, and remember, you were born to shine. Welcome to your moment, Prospera, it's time.
We hope you enjoyed today's show on Prospera TV Network. Make it a point to visit us on YouTube and catch all your favorite shows anytime you want. Interested in hosting a show of your own? Or advertising your business on our network? Contact Elena Rodriguez.